this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and this is the first episode of 2017 with the very own Josh, the Boogie Boy from the Boogie Brew Company. So Josh, how's your new year going, man? And do you have any words of wisdom real quick before we get into our topic today, which is actually the best ingredients, organic ingredients to add to your garden to supercharge your guys' plant growth?
Just keep on growing. 2017 is a more important year than ever in all of our lives, and just keep on doing exactly what you all are doing. Keep doing what this guy is teaching you to do, for God's sakes, all right?
Why?
There's a whole litany of reasons why.
Well, how about some of the top reasons?
Well, if you watch the movie The End of Suburbia, they discuss how America is going to vote for future demagogues. This movie was done in 2004. And then they discuss, how these demagogues are going to offer you a false dream, a false reality of we can, still have the good times of suburbia for 80 years. The good times are over. And what this man teaches you is the answer. It's all in the movie The End of Suburbia. It answers it a lot better than I could, try to explain. But what this man teaches you is a survival tool. Not just to survive, but to thrive in 2017.
Awesome.
With John Kohler and the Boogie team.
And he's a poet and didn't know it.
Oh, there you go.
All right, Josh. Yeah, so no matter what, you guys should be growing your own food, at least part of your own food. And, hopefully most of all your own food when you're able to. And that's my goal. And, hopefully that's one of your goals too. But, even if you're not growing a lot of food, just start. That's the main thing. And that's why Josh and I are having this episode today, to give you guys some of the most important ingredients you could add to your organic garden so that you'll be successful. So the first thing I want to say, Josh, is do you really need to buy any of these ingredients to be gardening?
You do not. You absolutely do not. And let's be clear that before a child can learn how to plant a yam in the ground again, as they did in the 1930s, every kid before they made it to 5 knew exactly what to do with his grandma's onions, all right? Before they can learn to, or relearn how to do that again, they have to learn how to make a substance to grow the future food of America in this failed suburban experiment. And how are they going to grow this stuff? They need something to grow it in. All right, so we're here to talk about the key ingredients to give the future generations, yourselves, your kids, the kids after, the ones who are going to survive, the APS, the After Plastic Society. And these are the ingredients they're going to need to build soil. Because if you don't have soil, how can you possibly survive post-oil? How can you do it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, and that's what I want to encourage you guys. I don't just teach you guys how to garden. I teach you guys how to thrive. And I only got into gardening because of my failing health due to the processed foods, the junk foods, animal foods in excess, like hopefully many of you guys are not eating in this day and age, but hopefully you're having a diet based around plants. And if you want to eat some meat, some junk food once in a while, a small percentage of your diet, hey, great, enjoy it, right? But, to thrive in this new world, to ward off disease, to be healthy, you need to eat plenty of fruits and vegetables.
Health is your only wealth. It is.
Absolutely.
What else do you have?
Absolutely. So, what I've learned and what Josh already knows is to have higher quality plants that have more nutrition and, more importantly, more phytonutrients and phytochemicals. These are the things that fight disease, that may even help your immune system be really strong so you could avoid getting sick with anthrax or any kind of biological weapon, but also just to be healthy in the future. You're going to grow some nutritious stuff. So that's why we got this episode. So Josh, what's the first ingredient you want to share with everybody?
Okay, so we're going from, in order of 1 to 5, the number one first?
No, we'll list them all in no particular order.
Okay, no particular order. Definitely the first ingredient is compost. That is a no-brainer. And it costs you nothing to create it. You create it from the very food you eat. And instead of tossing the leftovers, which should always be organic, into a waste service bin that then gets taken by a crane-like truck, and God knows at what carbon footprint costs taken, wrapped in plastic no less, to a landfill, and then put in the ground where it can do nothing but sit there and not rot in plastic, right? So there's so many ingredients that can be used to make a killer compost. There's compost made in the northern Saskatchewan provinces where they haven't fracked or tar sanded, you know, and there's compost made in the more south you are, yes, the better your compost is going to do. So especially you Southern Belt viewers, you have no excuses. Make your own compost. Go to your neighbors. Go to the restaurants. Go to the places you know.
Juice bars.
Juice bars, exactly, because they're serving non-GMO. And that's a really key critical issue. It's so shameful, John, that the compost food chain itself has become polluted. That the quality of your compost has become so critical that you have to seek out non-GMO, non-plasticized compost, you know, ingredients, sources, wood chips that haven't been soaked in paclobutrazole, such as PG&E, Pacific Graft and Extortion, our West Coast electrical provider. They spray all the trees with those growth hormone disruptors, the same one the idiot cannabis growers are using to stunt bud growth, right? These cancer-causing chemicals are sprayed on the trees. Breathe deeply when you go underneath a PG&E crew, because they're spraying those trees with these evil cancer-causing chemicals. So even your carbon, your basic wood chip component of good quality compost, question its sources, seek out the organic fence that has been taken down, the 100-year-old, you know, redwood ruins and so on. Seek out old sources, get those quality sources of ingredients, and create a killer compost. Buy a wonderful machine and almost cheat nature, if you will, like the Jora, which we sell it like an IBM business model, virtually no profit, because the power of compost is the main horsepower. It is the main torque in your garden's engine system. Without it, you are doomed. Well, you're not doomed, but you're never going to have that key horsepower and that torque in the motor, John. You're just not without compost.
Absolutely agree. And the quality of your compost is dependent on the ingredients that are going to go into your compost. So I encourage you guys to have a diversity of different inputs to create, you know, the best compost.
I mean, the lawn clippings from the lawn that you know was sprayed by the one responsible county park that didn't use Roundup, and so on. Both the green waste, of course, the food waste, like he said, from juice bars. What an obvious fiber discovery, you know? I mean, that's just right there, you know, so much. Go and then teach your neighbors how to create quality compost, and let's root away the polluted food chain, you know, behind this whole mass commercialized system, so that compost can actually all be great living ingredients that don't have any pollutants or heavy metals in them.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. In nature, there's no such thing as waste, and unfortunately, we send things to the landfill all the time. So stop sending your food scraps and garden clippings to the landfill. Start composting them on your site. Whether you got a lot of space and want to do a pallet pile with different bins, or whether you're going to use some tumbling composters like I do, you want to do something. Now, you know, so that's Josh's first ingredient to add to your garden is, he says, the compost, and then in parentheses we'll put bacterial compost, because this is a bacterial-based compost when you're doing it thermally. So my second ingredient, also super critical, super important, is fungal-dominated compost. I just got out of Eco Farm in Monterey or whatever, California, and saw Paul Stamets. He is the mushroom god. Yeah. I mean, oh my God, his talk blew me away. It was like the talk that I love the most. Wow. At all Eco Farm. It really inspired me. And Paul said, I mean, there's a lot of things Paul said in his talk, but one of the things I'll share with you guys right now is that he believes the soil should be like, you know, overall 70% compost, but also have a 30% fungal or mycollogical, mycobiological. Thank you, Josh. Component. And if you guys, as much as you guys add all this compost, you got 100% of the bacterial, but you're missing the fungi. So, you know, Paul Stamets confirmed what I believe, that we really need to have a strong fungi component, you know. And this only came to me from example when I was observing nature. One of the other things that Paul says you guys should do is observe nature for clues and to see how the natural systems work, and we're trying to emulate that in our gardens.
Success leaves clues, people. Success leaves clues. Follow nature's clues.
And when I went to my friend's place up near Portland, and they're just growing in decomposed wood chips, guess what? That's high fungal activity. They have the biggest kale leaves and chard leaves that I ever saw. So, I mean, once again, also make your fungal dominated compost. Get a bunch of wood chips for free. Make sure they're a clean source. Pile them up, you know, inoculate them with some different mushrooms and whatnot, and let them sit a couple, 2-3 years.
You can do oatmeal baths, you know, you can do barley soaks, and here's a great ingredient that's still pretty free in most of America, and that is the leftover, for you beer lovers, from the good non-GMO grain microbreweries out there. They have a yeast mash that they can no longer ferment strong enough to make alcohol, and which they're legally required to dispose of. And so the real smart compostee heads, the soil creators on the West Coast, have already cottoned onto this. Here's what happens when you spray the leftover hop yeast mash, the barley yeast mash, which is an enzyme bath, an enzyme cocktail, right? That's a key part of the beer making. How ironic. John wouldn't be caught dead drinking a beer. He'll always drink the juice, right? However, there is some magic that happens, and I know this from experience with the Denbeste family, who we rent their yard when we're too busy to make our own boogie base, and at $500 a day, it's worth every penny to make 10,000 pounds at their facility. And I see them soak their redwood peat, which is a red colored, you know, very cheap, very affordable, recycled redwood ingredient from the North Coast for peat moss. And they soak it with this barley hop yeast mash that they have an exclusive contract with a local organic brewery. And my God, it turns the redwood peat color, it turns that red color black. And it's just, we also have them spray it where we store up there actually our own super wood chip pile that's an aged wood chip product to begin with. We further furnish it. We do actually boogie sprays on it. I'm giving your viewers a little key secret ingredient there, but we also make sure that they at least 2 times over the course of 6 months apply this enzyme bath. So think about it, you know, micro-brewed beer is escalating. You can even brew your own beers. I know people, I live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of hippies, and they make their own beer. And so there's this yeast mash runoff is available all over the place. So go seek that out. There's your little high-octane secret fuel additive to put on your fungally activated wood chip compost. Once you introduce the fungi in there, you can definitely go back with the oatmeal and the barley soak waters. This is all information that's free and available, yes indeed, on the Canna boards, the THC grower forums, okay? Dig there for the best farming information. Still, the West is the best. From the hills of Humboldt to the gardens of Grass Valley, California. These tea nerds, guys who make me look stupid, all right, have developed this system of farming for a long time. And you can learn from these little Canna connoisseur snippets of information and apply it to your own free compost pile right in your backyard and use it as the #1 ingredient to creating soil, not oil.
Awesome, Josh. Yeah, so I mean, the other comments I have on compost is I encourage you guys always to make it yourself, but unfortunately I don't have space in my small property to let a pile of wood chips compost down for 3 years, because I'd rather use that space to grow more food, which is more valuable to me than growing compost. And then I go to a company such as Boogie Brew or other companies in the area to get a good fungal dominated compost. And you can look no further than maybe your local hydroponic shop, because some hydro shops sell some Alaskan humus. That's basically a fungal rich compost.
Or you can look on Craigslist on your local farm forum boards, or you can connect with your local community farm organizations. Every piece of suburbia on at least the West Coast today, and I believe in most of America, has these community farms happening, and the ability to locally produce your own compost is more prevalent than ever, and you can take these secrets and open source info and apply it, you know, do it community wise. The problem when you buy a packaged product, not ours comes in paper, but it doesn't matter, you know, you still shouldn't have to pay to ship it, even whether it's plastic or paper. You really can create your own of this stuff. And I'm talking a survival tool for the future that's going to become worth a whole lot more than the SUVs in the driveways, John.
Awesome, Josh. Yeah, so let's see. Next ingredient, Josh. What's your next ingredient for all my viewers today?
worm castings. So everything we just talked about with compost, then you would also engage in a community effort to produce high quality worm castings, correct food chain. I'm not going to go deeper into it like I just went a little OCD on compost creation with John here. I would suggest that we wait until he visits my favorite worm casting vendors, which include Organic Solution in Southern California, and now also a company called Grain Fed in NorCal. I have the ultimate Caliwana commute with my hunt for quality worm castings. You know as well as John and I that they can be produced locally. You should produce them locally, produce them in your backyard as affordably as you can, and get them shipped as cheaply as you can when you can't produce them locally, and use them in your garden. As much as 10% of every raised bed should be a quality worm casting. That is your bacterial firepower. You need that heavy hit, all right? You can wax fungal all you want, but without a killer casting in your soil, and also worms themselves. Let's also preface that. I would say worms even more, because they can produce the castings for you for free. And if you create, it's all about creating the soup, creating these conditions so you can give your future children who can grow their onions and yams in the ground a real soil recipe. And certainly living worms in that soil they're right up there in compost territory, John. Yeah. Right up there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I add compost, worm casting, to my gardens, but I also, if I dig up my gardens, I have plenty of worms, so they're pooping the castings right where I need them. So Josh, really quick, I don't want to get it too deep into this because I'll have other episodes, but you know, some of the top ingredients for feeding your worms, right? Like for me anyways, it's finished compost. So you make compost out of fruit and vegetable scraps. Don't feed those to your worms. They could get waterlogged and all this stuff. Make compost first, then feed the compost to your worms. You're gonna have much less bugs and flies and all these kind of things in with your worms. Also feed them things like rock dust, good for grit, cardboard or other cellulose materials.
Carbohydrates, cellulose,
also like things like a crab shell.
Horsehair, go to your horsehair grooming facilities. You know, George Hahn from Worm Gold, who produces the highest commercially available chitinase castings. That's a secret ingredient that he uses in his worm casting food chain. Go to a local grooming facility, look for that protein. It's free. Go to your barber shop if you produce your own castings. Get some hair in there. The worms like to digest stuff. It is amazing, a miracle what they produce. Better than any bag of so-called miracle, fertilizer. Give me a break, man. The worms will do it for you for free, and create a super healthy soil while they're at it for generations to come.
What other ingredients, Josh, for my viewers real quick?
Oh, I mean, they like kelp, they like humic acid, newspaper, as long as the ink that's used on it, like Brian from OGS will tell you, he made sure that the ink that's used on the LA Times newspaper is not a toxic ink. I mean, again, you have to just go down that food chain. There's a great book written in the 90s, I still have it, Worms Eat My Garbage. Get that book. All
right, cool, Josh. So now we're down to the next ingredient. So what's the next ingredient everybody should add for higher quality food so they can thrive?
Let's see. I've already lost my chain. Remember?
All right, I'll take one, man. All right, so the next one I got actually, and that's gonna be the rock dust. And other trace minerals. And we already got a battle video about compost tea versus rock dust. But anyways, I'm gonna say rock dust and other trace minerals such as sea solids. So trace minerals are key to your garden. We're lumping the trace minerals in one category instead of two, but the trace minerals are super critical because if it's not in the food supply, that you're buying and composting, right? Those trace minerals are not going to be in your soil, and if they're not existing in your soil and you're creating your own soil, we need to get these in, and even in small proportions.
It's small. That's why I'm frowning.
We need to have small proportions. We don't need a ton of them. We don't need to have half rock dust. That's too much. But we need to have it in there, and the best place to add the rock dust is actually not into your raised beds. It's actually into your compost pile, into your compost as you're making it, because then the bacteria is going to start to break down that compost, make it more available for the plants, and it's going to be kind of integrated into the whole system. Of course, on the trace minerals that you'd spray on the sea solids, I'd like to maybe foil or feed those in, or add them to the soil in proper dilution ratios. And Josh, what's that dilution ratio?
Less is more, you know.
For the sea minerals.
I mean, as far as a vital ingredient, yes, the rock dust. However, I don't want your viewers misled by, okay, this is number 3 on the list, therefore it needs to be used in number 3 sort of ratio quantities. It reminds me, my number 3, forgive me, it's after 420, so I'm kind of ADD.
Well, your next one.
My number 3, well, mine was going to be, of course, wood chips.
All right, wood chips. Mixed into the soil?
Yes and no. Mulching at the right time of year. I mean, do what your forefathers did, you know, what we all used to do for generations, certain time of year. It's not just the Merry Christmas, Merry Holidays, it's Merry mulching time, you know. So mulch is not quite compost. It's predominantly more woodsy based, and getting it in there at the right time of the year and using it as a top dressing, and especially in a lot of drought afflicted places, which thanks to our, yes, it is changing, folks, global climate, you know, differences, is becoming more important in larger areas than ever. The value of mulch is pretty critical as a key sandwich cake layer, as a top. Everything else that you add as a top dressing and that gets activated by like Boogie Brew or your own high octane compost tea really is going to work infinitely better for you if you've done a mulch, if you've gone in there. Now these minerals, especially the sea solids, you know, less is more. It's like salt on food, all right? It's going to stimulate the taste buds if it's a probiotic salt with all the key elements in it and from an organic source to begin with. It's only going to help with probiotic conversions and the gastric secretions in your intestines. So treat your soil the same way. If you were to go crazy with that salt, it would overwhelm the palate, right? You wouldn't even enjoy it in your mouth, right? So how's your tongue then supposed to communicate the systems that help, you know, make that digestive process work healthily? It's the same with your soil. A sea salt like C90 mineral that is applied, less is more. People get excited, they use it one time, they see it, a probiotic conversion happens. Of course, it's like a new mineral, it's like a new taste sensation in your gastric juices, kick-starting everything. Then everything grows and they think, ooh, let's add more C90, let's add more C. So now, the rock dusts in general are much more neutral, if not negatively charged. That means they can only adsorb, they can't absorb and penetrate the cell wall of the plant like a salt can. And so they can be used with more abandon, but should they be used with more abandon? It's up to you and your pocketbooks. And this is where he and I can disagree.
We'll put a link down below to the video that we did.
Yeah, the French have a saying, you trust the couples who squabble publicly and sort their poop out. It's still the case with JK and the Boogie Boy. It's definitely the case with my wife and I, and that's okay. But my point is, go easy on the sea mineral part of it, and yes, go as rampant as you want, I guess, to a point with rock dust. Now, I believe the number of pounds per square foot of an already living active soil, if you're trying to kickstart, remember, rock dust is a catalyst. It's a killer catalyst, but that's all it is. So cayenne pepper, you don't need much of it, John, in an herbal formula for it to catalyze those herbs, deliver them more effectively. White willow, as nature's aspirin, will always work better with a pinch, with just a pinch of cayenne to sort of thermally direct it into your body's bloodstream, right? I believe rock dust used in cayenne pepper quantities in your soil, and sea minerals for sure used in salt quantities as on food, then they're just only going to help. They're never going to hurt you. We're here to help you. We're not here to hurt you.
Yeah, so don't salt your food or your plants too much.
Yeah.
All right.
And go easier on the rock dust than he likes to.
No. So my rock dust buddy and friend, Don Weaver, who literally wrote a book on the rock dust, he says, as a generous initial offering back to the soil, 1 pound of rock dust per 1 square foot, right? If that's too much for you, then do, 2 pounds per 1...
per 10 square feet.
No. Do 1...
John, come on,
do 1 pound for 2 square feet. No, and then anyways, but once you get the generous offering for the initial application, then you could do 1 pound for 10 square feet.
Yeah.
Or you could start off with 1 pound for 10 square feet if you're not
good
super rich or whatever. But get it in there. That's the whole point.
Get it locally. You know.
Yeah, get it locally.
I hate shipping that stuff.
Yeah, get it locally if you can. I have other videos that talk about how you could go to a rock and stone quarry to get it and try to find it locally. So Josh, let's get into the next ingredient.
Where are we at now? We're at number 4, right?
No, I got one because
Okay,
you actually you had the mulch actually, so I'm gonna go. So I personally don't mulch, and you're thinking, John, why don't you mulch? Well, mulch, like every gardening practice, has pros and cons, and I found when I mulch, it provides a nice hiding place for many bugs and insects, especially snails and slugs. Provides them a good home, especially in the summertime when they won't normally be living, and then my stuff gets eaten really bad, especially the little babies that I transplant in. So I prefer to use a living mulch, and if you guys could see behind me, I got lettuce intermixed with garlic, and then we got living mulch to cover the ground, which is the chickweed that's basically forming a mat to prevent evaporation. They're spreading their roots out. They're creating more microbiological activity in the ground because there's roots for the bacteria to live on, the mycorrhizae fungi to live on in there. So that's my goal instead of the mulch. But definitely for me, I would rather use that mulch, the wood chips, off-site or somewhere else to compost them down first and then add them to my garden versus just adding them on top. And definitely one of the big challenges with store-bought compost and soil blends at the big box stores, which mostly all suck, they put way too many wood chips in there, and then the quality of it, and when you try to grow you try to grow stuff, it doesn't grow that well because there's just way too much wood chip material. So
it's cheap filler too, okay?
Yeah, and it's a cheap filler. So, take that with a grain of salt. So, I mean, yeah, use a living mulch, even use some kind of, paper mulch, other kinds of mulches, maybe, God forbid, say plastic or, something, if you want to prevent evaporation instead of using a living mulch, or, plant your plants closer. That's another technique I use so that sun does not hit the ground. They get absorbed onto the leaves, and then my plants could grow more because, there's just more sun on them.
Well, I learn something new every day, and I forgot the power of companion planting.
Yep.
And thank you, John, for refreshing that and the lasagna French garden method, of biointensive, just crowding out all your soil real estate with valuable companion plants rather than letting weeds take hold, rather than getting stuck in a battle. So this is an ingredient. This is more like a layout, a grid, but that is an ingredient.
Right.
That's an ingredient built out of your own input. So
the next ingredient I'm going to say is actually kelp. Kelp is essential, not only for the trace minerals in there, but for the different kelp compounds in there. There's so many different cytokines and all these other things in kelp that will definitely help your plants grow better. Hormones.
Well, the hormone boost from kelp. But John, again, if you go look at these Canna Connoisseur THC Gardeners Forum, I forget the name. Post some links below. Post some links to these famous, Canna growing boards. Kelp can really send things cattywampus, if you want, as an English expression. With that, respect that. That's a pretty high octane ingredient to list as a top 5, and I'm going to disagree. I'm going to differ.
Well, you got kelp meal, and then you got the soluble kelps, right?
Well,
a good kelp meal is much more mellow than a soluble kelp that's way more strong.
Well, that's true. I mean, one is what your forefathers would go and seek from the seashore.
Right, and you guys could harvest it. If you guys live in California, you could harvest, I think, up to 10 pounds of seaweed that washes up on the
I didn't know
legally
that.
Without a permit. I mean, if you harvest more than that, you need to get a permit.
But 10 pounds of kelp is a fair bit, especially
wet. Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, okay, I guess it's not. But still, if you live near a beach community and you're lucky,
and it's clean.
Well, yeah, which is impossible these days thanks to Fukushima and our plasticized world. However, if you rinse it really well, it does have a lot of hormones in it. The fiber in kelp is a killer, the carrageenan or whatever that they use in the food industry. Kelp has some amazing properties. It's nature's vegetable superfood that should be available in a clean form, but unfortunately, due to the way we live. Now, I'm still going to differ. Yes, the fibrous form. One is like wheatgrass juice fiber. The other one is like your soluble wheatgrass juice. After the fiber has been separated from the juicer, you have the liquid juice only, and they dehydrate it.
Concentrate.
And most of the kelps, they use a alkaline chemical, a potassium-based chemical. It's not too caustic, but it's semi-toxic, at least from what I know about it, and it's a potassium hydroxide. And then the in theory at least, that gets evaporated, that gets digested, that's no longer the potassium hydroxide alkalized juice powder from kelp, right? Your soluble kelp is no longer it's present in such small quantities that it doesn't affect the organic overall superfood nature of the soluble high octane kelp. You know, like the Kelplex we use is a good example of that. Another one is Maxi Crop, a little more green. There is one kelp we know about from the Indian Ocean, and it's a red kelp.
Yep.
And our friends at DNS Garden Supply, Urban Farm, managed to brand it and register it, God bless them, in a relatively affordable form. It's called Kraken Kelp, Kraken, Kraken Kelp. And Boogie Brew is actually proud to use the Kraken Kelp from this red kelp from what we hope is a plastic-free seashore in India, where the farmers are paid an honest dollar.
Yep.
The locals, I mean, God bless them. These people living such quality lives. Support these people. And they are producing a juice powdered, equivalent of a powdered juice kelp, soluble kelp that's from a red, very unique properties. And my God, no alkaline, no potassium hydroxide used to create it. And yet it's K, John. It's organic potassium is like twice as high.
I know.
It's 0.030.
I use it
yeah.
when I do my baby transplants. It goes on the root mix.
So how could you not then list that? Now how can I not list it? Well, I mean, this is and you know,
and we differ in our gardening approaches.
Well, I mean, you know,
I have the bigger garden, Josh.
Right, and who has said in the past, if you were to strand me on a desert island, allow me to pick one commercial product, it wouldn't even be my own, the Boogie Brew high octane compost tea. It would be the PP, the pure protein. Ed Zybura's product. It's all amino acids.
And it's that's a fish hydrolysis.
Yeah, it's a fish that's grown sustainably in ponds in Alaska and now China, where there's no heavy metals, there's no GMO food ingredients. Everything that's fed to the codfish is of a super high quality source to begin with. And arguably this is a cleaner fish material than what could come from our oceans. It's so sad. I've read reports, verified reports in the media. When you eat seafood now, you're consuming hundreds, if not thousands, of micronized plastic particles with every gram of fish protein you eat. So whether you're a strict vegan like our friend here, or whether you're someone who thinks that their body deserves to enjoy what God gave us, you know, a massive, bountiful protein harvest in our oceans, right? Unfortunately, that option is no longer a non-plasticized option. However, with these sustainably, you know, yes, farm grown, but remember, this is not a byproduct of the fish industry. The pure protein, those codfish are raised from day one to be used as an agricultural food only. So unlike most agricultural fish products, and unfortunately, John, most of them come in these stinky slurries in plastic jugs, which are a byproduct of like pet food, fish industry, and greater just fish industrial complex, if you will. Fish foods for the masses, for whatever, right? Fish is used in all kinds of industries. This is a product, like I said, sorry, I'm waxing on, just for growers, right? And harvested for growers. Now, the codfish is chosen because of the unique amino acid profile that is in codfish protein that's higher in tryptophan, I believe, is the amino acid that plants really love. Now remember, don't be fooled by the high N rating, 1511, the nitrogen rating in this pure protein product. Because John, that nitrogen, that 15% nitrogen is all in the form of pre-digested amino acids. So I'm going to still give a vote to the PP, because if I had used that when I was a grower, I would have done better than I already did with the other methods we've talked about, and yes, indeed, my own Boogie Brew tea. You're probably wondering, why is the Boogie Boy babbling at us about pure protein and, you know, differing with John about rock dust levels and never saying, like, compost tea is top 5. The reason Boogie Brew is not a top 5 ingredient is because all the other ingredients form the main horsepower to the soil engine. And Boogie Brew is a wonderful high-octane fuel additive for that engine. And so really are the kelp and the pure protein. You know, those are luxury items. The other items should be produced locally in every street corner of this country. And that's going to lead me right into what I believe is the number one ingredient that will go into any garden, that's free and available to all, that you don't even ever have to purchase or create to begin with, John. And it lies in each and every one of us. And it's a unique secret vitamin, and it will make your garden rage, and it will make your plants dance like everything else we've just put together on steroids.
What is it, Josh? I really want to know.
We put it in our tea every time we make a batch. We call it vitamin L. Love. Now, if you love what you do, and you get out there and do what this man just did today, your plants will know. They will respond. And if you do everything you do lovingly, and this is 2017, when we're in a new world of hate, all right? There are airports right now where people are stuck. This is the end of January 2017. There are people who are legally allowed to live here with green cards and visas that cannot because of hatred, because of fear. And guess what love will do? It will conquer the most painful to create garden. If you love getting out there in your garden and doing what you do and doing what this man teaches you to do, if you love making a quality product like I do, and what I train my guys when they make Boogie Bass and Boogie Boost, I see the tea in my sleep. If you put that love into it, you're gonna succeed. You're gonna succeed better than the finest fungal wood chips and everything. And being in the garden is almost as loving and beautiful of an activity to me as my real drug of choice, which is still bicycling. I'm a bike bum, and that's why I grew weed back in the day, was to pay for a selfish athlete lifestyle. So if you have other passions that are even more important to you than doing what this man teaches you all to do, please go do them. Please go do them if they're not harming the earth. There is no left versus right. I know there's a lot of you out there who are Trumpists, who did vote for, let's face it, a demagogue. Let's get real here, all right? I mean, just north of us, Canada just said, no, we choose love. We're choosing love. We're saying, if you are from Syria and you're a refugee, come to Canada. And you know what? Those refugees, they were growing some onions out in their patch next to their tents. They were growing food. Remember, in Cuba, after the Soviet Union fell apart, they no longer got their free oil and their free subsidies from the Grandmaster Communist Mother Nation, right? From Mother Russia. And there's a book about this called A Tale of Two Nations, John, where one chose a path of hatred and fear and a system that collapsed on itself. And that was the communist country of North Korea, where they too stopped getting their Russian subsidies. And those people starved. In Cuba, they chose love. And they went and put gardens in on every freaking banister, on every porch. There wasn't a church. There wasn't a driveway that they didn't learn how to start growing their food in. And they went from a sugarcane communist republic to a nation of love and permaculture expertise, which the Australians, where permaculture, originated from in the 70s, could only dream of. All right? And this is the future that you face. And what this man teaches you is the answer to our political turmoil that we're in today. There is no left versus right, okay? All these other issues, healthcare, jobs. What's a job? J-O-B, just over broke? Come on, oil, for God's sakes. Are we still there? Are we really still there? Coal, that's fossil fuel in general. Come on, all right? The only answer, and I'm as twisted as they come, a twisted lefty, a pro-life liberal, all right? But it doesn't matter. Those are all sideshows. The economy, jobs, healthcare, even immigration, which I just ran on about. The most important battle, John, and all you people watching me right now will affirm this. The only thing that matters. World War III has already happened. We need to save us from ourselves. And they put Bernie on the spot. They did put Bernie on the spot when Bernie was just killing it. When he was packing more crowds without any media than Hillary and Donald combined. One of the mainstream stations put him on the spot, on air, on a big thing. And they said, what is the most important thing facing Americans today, facing our society today? He didn't even flinch in his response. He said, our environment. And right now, we have a cabinetry that's going in. And it is unbelievable. You think it was bad when Obama, whose balls I've busted before in other Enviro News episodes and so on, never mentioning the F word, fracking in 8 years, right? When he had people like the chickens being guarded by the fox, the Monsanto lawyer becoming the guy in charge of the FDA. You think that was bad? It's getting a lot more grim. We are living now in an oligarchy. And it is soil, not oil. And what this man teaches you is the solution. Watch the movie The End of Suburbia. We're going to be voting for these demagogues. What is the answer? To do everything that he's taught you in over 1,200 videos. Save us from ourselves. You think I'm joking? We're up to almost 420, a number I love so much, parts per million of CO2. Christ almighty. Excuse me to use the Lord's name in vain, but this is no joke, people. These are critical times. All right? And the data just got scrubbed from so many of these free government agency websites on these key issues. You know what? You hold the key to more data than all of NASA's scientists and these climate deniers and whoever oligarchs can get in there. You hold the data. You hold the key to a plastic-free lifestyle. I know you do. I talk to you. I sell you my product on the side, a little commercial conduit to a far higher cause, an extreme cause, and that's what we're talking about. These ingredients to make your soil, the fact that you're out there making it and converting your driveways. I talk to you. Grandma's in Florida saying, Josh, I love you and John Kohler. I've thrown away my shopping bags, all right? My grandson's helping me build raised beds. I have people entire church groups. I don't care if you voted for him or not. Do what's right. Convert those driveways of America to raised bed urban food farms. We are stuck with this 80-year experiment, whether we like it or not, most of us, this suburbia thing, all right? We can cry and mope and wail and sing and dance all we want about it. And try and pretend that the energy that's been fueling it is legit form of energy and that we can keep it going on perpetually when we know we can't. In 80 years, we've consumed what took the Earth 800 million years of sunlight to create in oil. All right? We're talking about an ocean where in 2050, within 30 years, while you and I are still young enough to hopefully have these chats, we'll have more plastic in it than fish, John. All right? So let's get real and just take these words as a guiding light, how to survive and thrive in 2017. Keep doing what you're doing. Pursue your passions. Get out there and ride my bike, Josh, do what it takes. Keep that head out of commotion by staying in motion, by staying on this path. Do your little thing. I don't care if it's 4x4 bed of strawberries, or if it's what he's got, which is over the top. Do it. Keep doing it and turn your nose up to big oil, to this fossil fuel madness, which we've all been duped by.
Well said, Josh. There's so many different things in there that I would comment on, but I think I'll just make a few comments. So first off is, I just bought an electric car. So I'm just gonna stop buying gas.
Yes.
Finally, got a 2015 Nissan Leaf on eBay, of all places.
Hell yes.
So I could plug in. So, and I encourage you guys to go electric too. And my next step is solar panels for the roof, so I could charge it with my solar power, drive my car and get out of the whole system. I'm trying to remove myself from the food system as much as possible by growing my own food. And the whole point of the matter is I'm doing what I'm able. And I want you guys to do what you're able to do as well. And one comment I had is, Josh says we need the letter L in everything we do, not just our gardens, not just making compost tea, but everything you do. We want to emit love in our society instead of hate. If you turn on the news, you're going to be bombarded with hate, and when you see hate, it brings upon hate, and that's what we get. So I want you guys to focus on love instead of hate. Super critical. And the thing with your garden, when you love your garden, right, don't give them too much water, because I love my garden, I'm gonna water it too much. You're gonna flood your plants, man. So if you really love your garden, you're gonna give them the proper amount of water, you know, just like you're gonna give your son or daughter the proper amount of food, not overfeed them so they become overweight or whatever, not feed them too little so they become underweight. Just give them enough. But anyways, it's getting dark. I'm kind of getting hungry. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Lots of words of wisdom, not only with gardening, but with other things. I love Josh's rants, and if you guys love his rants too, hey, please give a thumbs up. And if there's like 1,000 thumbs ups, Josh is gonna promise and commit to making his own YouTube channel.
Oh my God.
Full of rants and all this stuff. He has so many good words that I'll probably never air on my gardening channel, because I like to keep it to gardening. But he has all kinds of knowledge and information that he'd love to share with you, well, if he had a listener.
Well, it's actually, John, it's you and your audience that inspires me. And let me tell you, I've learned more from you all right? In 5 years of selling my product to you all, I've learned so much more about soil and about life and living. And I'm just honored, absolutely honored, to have a conduit to be connected to such a critical crowd of humanity. And they know, you know what I'm talking about. These cannot be put in words. As lyrically gangster, the lyrical gangster himself, as they used to call me. Yeah, I can't put it in words, all right? So keep doing what you're doing, and I love you more. I love you more. And thank you, John, for giving the Boogie Boy such a powerful audience. Because you're the power. You are the power. You hold the keys to our future for our children. You really do.
Yeah. We could all make a difference, and like, you know, Gandhi said, be the change in the world you want to see. And that's just simply what I do by making videos. I would encourage you guys to go out and educate others about real food, about gardening, or about whatever you guys are super passionate about. In any case, with that, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on any of my new and upcoming episodes I'm coming out about every 3 to 4 days. You never know where I'm going to show up or what you'll be learning on my gardening channel. Also, be sure to check my past episodes. Over 1,200 episodes now, teach you guys all aspects so you guys can empower yourselves, learn how to grow food without anybody else but my videos. I've met plenty of people that are growing their food just because of my videos, and they never even picked up a gardening book. It's really not that hard. Get out there and do it. Hopefully we motivated you at least just a little bit, and also shared with you guys some really important ingredients to add so you guys could supercharge your growth and thrive in 2017.
John, your audience and you together form a greater university of agriculture than all the farm colleges in the world, and even the canna boards put together, and the canna boards all put together.
I don't know about that, Josh, but there's a lot of good info on my channel. There's a lot of good info everywhere, and I always just try to suck it up and you know, and share with you guys the stuff that really works.
Yep.
So
amen.
So yeah, with that, this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing.